Welcome back. Well, let me take you through all that's happening with the Indian aviation. We're possibly seeing the worst meltdown that we've seen in ages. IndiGo crews can't cope up with the new safety rules, and that's what's clear. Travelers across India are living quite the nightmare. Flights have been cancelled, several delayed, long queues, and people have zero clarity on when this situation would be fixed. 6-hour delay. That's as long as many passengers have faced, or cancellation after that. So this has really hit major airports in India because India's largest airline, IndiGo, that really has nearly 65% of the market share, has run out of crew, quite literally. IndiGo runs over 2,200 flights daily. 60% of India's aviation market it is, but for the third day in a row, we're looking at operations that have collapsed. Now, widespread disruptions. Delhi today, I'm talking about in the last 24 hours, 95 plus cancellations have been reported. Hyderabad, 60 plus flights have been affected. Bengaluru, 70 plus flights hit. Mumbai, Ahmedabad, and more. These are the major airports that we're looking at cancellations and delays. Passengers are, of course, very furious. They're stuck for hours with no information and nobody really trying to calm nerves, even IndiGo crew are trying their best, but the situation is so bad that it seems like the airline is unable to handle this at this point. So what really triggered India's biggest airline meltdown? The new FDTL, flight duty time limit rules. These rules were brought in by the DGCA to protect pilots and protect passenger safety. For years now, pilots warned that long duty hours were that basically caused fatigue and put lives at risk because crew were overstretched. And now the DGCA have come up with strict rules. As per the new rules, the crew can only fly 8 hours a day, 35 hours a week, 125 hours a month, 1,000 hours a year, plus mandatory rest for them, at least 10 hours rest in every 24 hours. Rest must be at least twice the length of the flight that they just operated. These are the guidelines of the rules. These rules kicked in fully on November 1st, and suddenly IndiGo didn't have enough pilots or cabin crew to operate the massive schedule, that too holiday season. Now, was this avoidable? Well, airlines knew that this day was coming. Why didn't IndiGo plan ahead? Why were passengers kept in the dark? Where is the top leadership of IndiGo at this point? Why aren't they on the front lines with their ground staff? Well, that's the question we're asking. How does a market leader with the biggest fleet collapse overnight? Was there a contingency plan or not? Well, we're looking at pilots there fatigued. Now, rules come in place to protect them, especially after the Air India crash. But airlines and the administration not being able to handle it. And this is the holiday season, let me warn you, but what we want is passenger safety. That's what's priority, and IndiGo must buck up. Let me bring in Aryansh Singh, who's a stranded passenger, gives us a little on his ordeal. Captain Prashant Dalla, former Flight Operations Inspector, DGCA, and Group Captain VN Jha, who's aviation expert and former IAF officer. Let me start with Group Captain Jha. Sir, your take on this, on IndiGo having the largest market share. Ideally, we would believe that they have a contingency plan and a plan, to ensure that the holiday season is managed. The rule was announced much in advance. It was to be implemented on November 1st. It's now nearly a month post, and it seems like now they are collapsing. What do you think has happened here?
Very good evening, Nabila. This issue of the FDTL, we have been struggling, ever since. I had done my specialization in aerospace medicine, which deals with the human factor in aerospace aviation, way back in 1983. And from that day onwards, I mean, even those days, this FDTL used to be a very big issue, not only in India, the world over. Even the DGCA, ICAO, everyone has been struggling to have a slight bit of flexibility in the operations. But then, whenever any accident happens, which has a pointing finger towards the flight fatigue, there no one can shrug away from the responsibility, and very few people want to take the responsibility of any aviation which is taking place owing to the fatigue limits. So now, over as many decades, uh, these are the rules which have been laid down. and what new rules have come. You have just mentioned it has come in force last year. I think about in the beginning of the last year, but then there was a period given. There was a implementation period given to them, and there are very many things which are to be taken care of. And the first and foremost was the duty hours and the rest period. This was the first thing, that every pilot should have 48 hours of rest, which earlier used to be 36 hours. So Indigo even implemented that. They did do that. Second factor become was the night landing limitation, which is now come to two only from the earlier six, and it has got a very big impact on the airline, especially Indigo, which has many flights in the night time or V times, and the extent of the night definition has been extended by another hour. So invariably, what used to be earlier the six landings now has become two, and it has put a big restrictions on the bigger agencies like Indigo, which has got immense number of the flights which happen. So all these have led into this. Surely, the Indigo flight management, they are mostly responsible for it, and there's a big problem of experienced hands, the trained pilots. There is a limitation of the trained pilots in India. Today India needs at least 50% more pilots, qualified pilot, airline transport airline pilots. The number should be at least 50% more than what it is right now, but they are unable. Every school, every training institute in the flight, they are struggling with this. They can't cope up there. So all these have led to the situation where we are. And here, when it comes to the FDTL and the fatigue aspect, no one can take a chance. So there are a bit of 1 hour extension, 1 hour of the adjustment period has still been given, but then that is insufficient to the airline, which has got a big volume of operation, to compensate for the pilots who have gone off the duty. So it's bad luck for the Indigo. They should have taken preemptive actions much earlier than that they are taking now. I hope it settles down. Nabila.
Can I ask you about pilot fatigue, sir? How serious is this safety risk, and why did authorities wait so long to enforce such tough actions? Pilots being fatigued, and I know this was triggered after the Air India crash, where in a way some reports suggested that the pilots were to be blamed, and then you had a whole hue and cry about how pilots are overworked. First of all, Air India crash, is it the pilot to blame or not? In fact, in my personal opinion, of whatever I've read, it was false, targeting on the pilots. But yet, this also is a reason to why DGCA has come up with these rules so soon.
Look,
But tell us about
we,
the safety risk of
yeah,
pilots
look,
being overworked and what really goes through on ground. How long are they working usually?
look. Uh, Pilot fatigue or the fatigue is a chapter which is slightly grayish in definition. And what is laid down in the books may not be applicable to every individual. But then you can't have a rule for every individual. It has to be a collective. And that is why the definition has been given. Secondly, look at the pilot. It is not only the flying time that we are concerned about. Flying time is from the time that you have started the engine or you have reached the aircraft, you have done the pre-flight checks of the aircraft, started the engine. From there, the time starts till the time the engine has been switched off. That is the flight time. That is very strict right now. It is maximum of 10 hours under certain conditions. Otherwise, it is about 8 hours of flying time. Now, the FDTL includes many of the actions before the flight. Like the pilot has to leave his residence or the hotel. From there, he has to come to the air traffic control. He files his flight plan. He takes all the briefings from there, and then he comes to the desk. He comes to the aircraft, and there from it starts again. After landing, he switches off the aircraft, goes to the counter where he hands over the report if he has got any observations on the flight or flying performance of the aircraft. He makes a note of that, and there his time ends. So it's the longest time. So in that, surely, if I am very very motivated, if I have to operate this for some reason or other, I'm motivated that that bit of fatigue may not come. But look what happens in the airlines. These are the monotonous flying, long stretches of flying. Once I have started, I have taken off, I have put the undercarriage up, and then set course. From thereafter, it's a very boring flight. I have sat in the, being a human factor specialist from the Air Force. We used to get time to study this pilot's actions and the pilot's duty schedules within the cockpit, and we used to sit there in the cockpit and observe that. It used to be very very boring, because after he has set course, if it is 2 hours flight or 3 hours flight, one pilot goes to, invariably he reclines the seat, and then he goes for a snoring. Many of the aircraft accidents, including that happened in the Bangalore, the pilot was heard snoring on the flight cockpit voice recorder. These are the problems that they have. It's a very boring flight, unlike Air Force, where from the moment you have taken off, your brain is working overtime. Every type of things happens in the cockpit. Every action that you have to take, and every maneuver that you have to get into it. It pumps the blood, it pumps the adrenaline into your system, and that doesn't let you doze off. So these are entirely two different situations. Even in Air Force, we get
Yeah,
fatigued.
yeah.
Even in Air Force, there are restrictions. But the civil airliner, it's a relatively boring job. First pilot, second pilot, they have got the distribution of their things. There are a lot of checks, cross checks in flight there as well. But still, it's a boring flying, and that is where the fatigue aspect is much more
Yeah, yeah.
likely to happen.
Absolutely. I passengers are bearing the brunt, and Aryansh, who's a flyer, really had to go through an ordeal. Aryansh, my limited question to you: how did this impact you, your travel plans, and did the crew attend to you, give you information? Did you get a refund?
Hi, Nabila. Thanks for having me here. So, yeah, coming to the question, my flight got cancelled at the very last moment, and no, the refund was not provided. I mean, I had like five passengers with me. For four of them, we got alternative route, but the thing was like there were very limited seats which were available. So because of that, one of my friend was she has opted for a refund, but like still it's pending. The thing is, most of the agents and the customer care from Indigo, they were not very helpful. It was very difficult to reach out to them. Firstly, because there were multiple flights that were cancelled. So because of that, a lot of people were actually trying to resolve their issues. So the wait time was like 30-40 minutes. The call was getting dropped. So it was very hectic to actually reach out to the customer care. When I reached airport to have my alternate flight, the it was like hell lot of chaos over there. Like people were shouting and like a lot of them were fighting. The crew members were like very limited. Even the flight that was provided to me as an alternate route, even that got delayed. It was on a runway for like 2 hours, on an aero bridge for like 2 hours. We were informed that the crew member is not there. There were only like three air hostess who were there. One was still missing, and she actually reported after 2 hours. And the people were like really frustrated. They started shouting, making scene out of that. So overall, my experience was like really bad. So my 5 hours of journey turned into like the whole day like mess. And yeah, like that was my experience overall.
All right, Aryansh. Well, we seem to have lost your audio there, but finally, Mr. Jha, your one and only suggestion to passengers who are stranded, they're not getting refunds. How do they fight this out?
Look, passengers have to be, they have to be slightly more accommodative. These limitations are because of the pilot's fatigue. Do they want to fly with the fatigued pilot? I don't think anyone will like that. But then it is the overall responsibility of the company. They should ensure that it doesn't happen. In spite of all these regulations, there are period when about 5 odd% of the pilot, they may report something unusual. They may not feel perfectly on that day of flight. They may withdraw, and that much of reserve in the flight scheduling, aircrew scheduling, that does take place. I might not have been able to sleep last night at all. Now that will show onto my performance next day. But the airline doesn't know that I have not slept last night. And similar situations happen when the pilot turn out or they give a call that I am unwell, I am not going through today. So these things happen, and if the passengers are not accommodative, I can understand someone takes a flight for very urgent reason where they have to reach for a certain duty, certain work type, or maybe leisure, or there could be another flight which will, they will miss out. So there are compulsions on the passenger side to be slightly impatient. But then look, do you want to take a chance with the fatigue pilot to land? No, I don't think that will be there. Passengers will also
No,
have to
I
be.
don't, sir. No, as a passenger, I'm not going to think of all of that. If I'm paying money, I get a service. I basically am buying a service. So if I'm paying money, I need to get a refund. It should be a seamless process.
You are
So
right, Nabila.
that's
You are
what's
right,
more
Nabila.
important. I think passenger rights also must be secured.
I'll just add, the pilot's task is not that easy. If I'm fatigued, I may forget to do lower my undercarriage when I'm going for landing. It has happened. And the other crew, the cabin crew, they have got the urgent task. The moment flight takes off, announcements come with the snacks or meals or something. Take it out, do all the cleaning works. They are absolutely tight. They may be fatigued. They also may be fatigued, but they are not flying the aircraft. At the most, they will feel the aches and pains of being fatigued. They are
Top
sluggish.
the talk top ranking officers of IndiGo, including the CEO and all the top ranking officers are responsible for not having a contingency plan. So the entire responsibility at this point, in my view, rests on them. But that's all I have time for. Mr. Jha, thank you very much. And Aryansh, we heard you. We hope your issue is solved at the earliest. Thank you.